What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog. Got a sweet standard Izzet Prowess list. This is one I did not play during the early access event because I was expecting to be fairly popular, and so I just kind of focused on maybe some other ideas I thought would be a little more interesting that weren't necessarily going to see as much play. So this one did not see like it was as prevalent as I was expecting it to be, but it was definitely something I knew I wanted to explore. So I've kind of been working on it since the set officially released on Thursday. Obviously, I'm a big fan of these kind of Izzet wizards and prowess style decks with very aggressive with trying to mix creatures and spells. And this is no different. We've got lots and lots of new cards that work really well in that style of deck. And I've been purposely avoiding other content creators' versions because I just wanted to do my own take before I started taking a look at any of theirs. And so I ran it through some playtests this weekend, and this is kind of where we're at. So Prowess, of course, is basically any time you cast a non-creature spell, you get some kind of a bonus, like typically like a +1/+1 boost till end of turn. That's typically what Prowess is for. Alright, so we got some new cards here in Crash Through, which is obviously something that we see in Historic, but it's a brand new to Standard again since it rotated out not too long ago. But it's a sorcery speed, creatures to control gain trample until end of turn and draw a card. If you have your creatures that are 1/2s, 2/2s, whatever, and you give them a prowess trigger to end of turn, which is nice. But if they don't have flying or some kind of evasion, then it's just pretty medium that you're going to just chump block it. Well, Crash Through says you get the prowess benefit, you get the channel benefit, and you draw a card for 1 mana. I mean, that's pretty amazing. So Crash Through is an amazing card in this list. Infuriate. There's another way if you're going to get through for damage. Some of our creatures already have evasion with flying or trample, and Infuriate works extremely well with those. We can also hold it up during combat, see our opponent blocks, whatever doesn't get through. We can Infuriate to kind of maybe put our opponent's life total low, if not finish them off. We can put out one of our creatures that is blocked to kind of keep our creature alive while killing our opponent's creature. So just lots of nice ways to use Infuriate. Just 1 mana instant speed is fantastic. And of course, Shock is not to include in this style of list. We're not running Opt, we're actually running Crash Through instead as our card draw engine because it also has the benefit of giving trample. But we also are running the Shock. Typically those go hand in hand, the Opt and the Shock, just as 1 mana spells to kind of trigger your prowess. It's definitely a case to run something like Opt. It would be kind of a safer option, but there's definitely so much more upside with things like Infuriate, Crash Through, and even things like Shock. You need ways to close out the game, deal damage to your opponent, kill your opponent's smaller creatures before they can do anything. Priest of Forgotten Gods can be kind of a pain and things like that. So you do need ways to deal with that. The Opt doesn't really do much against. And here's our first creature here, Jeskai Elder. 1/2, 2 mana Prowess. Whenever it deals damage to a player, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. This card looks like it was going to be pretty good, but I wasn't really too sure how amazing it was going to be. But I've been very, very pleased with this card. It's fantastic. Just the fact that it's a May ability is, I think, what makes this card so good. And the 2 toughness is also pretty nice, even though it does have just the 1 power. But you can easily chain the spells together. Things like Crash Through, Infuriate to give it trample and get through for extra damage. And you can do tons of damage with this card. And the card selection in the low to the ground aggro list, once you get up to like 3-4 lands, you don't need any more than that. And you're happy to discard those for more additional spells. Another new card we got is Riddleform, which is a reprint from the Amonkhet block. It saw some play back then. It's definitely a fine card, but definitely think it really shines in this style of list, and I've been pretty pleased with it overall. The nice thing is it's an enchantment, and you have to cast a non-creature spell to turn it into a 3/3, and it is a May ability as well, which is nice. So there could be some situations where you don't necessarily want to, especially when you get into like best of 3 matches and you're doing stuff on your opponent's turn. You may not necessarily want to turn this into a 3/3, but of course you can also do that on your opponent's turn and turn it into a 3/3 and then block your opponent's creatures and things like that. So there's definitely lots of interesting routes you can go on, but mostly we're the aggressor here, so we're going to be trying to cast spells on our turn, Crash Throughs, Shocks, and things like that. Turn it into a 3/3. We don't care that it's only 3/3. I mean, the fact that it's a 3/3 for 2 mana makes it pretty good with flying, so it gives us a nice evasion. We're trying to be the aggressor, have efficient creatures out that can deal damage. And if you do get into some kind of like a board stall, or you're trying to fight your way through board wipes, it has this active ability where you can sink 3 mana into it to scry 1. So it's not terrible. By then you can have 3, 4, 5 mana anyway, so spending 3 mana to scry and fix your draws to potentially find the aggressive creature you're looking for to help you close out the game is perfectly fine. So, and just the fact that it's an enchantment, again, it helps you like dodge sweepers. When they go to Shatter the Sky, you can just have this be an enchantment, and it dodges it, and then your following turn, you have your you can just cast a non-creature and turn it into a 3/3 flyer. So lots of cool things you can do with a Riddleform. Unsubstantiate is kind of an interesting new card here. Return target spell or creature to its owner's hand. This card I've been very pleased by. I think it doesn't work as well in maybe some decks, but in this deck I found it to be fantastic. It's kind of taking the place of Unsummon, but it can also return that Shatter the Sky to your opponent's hand. It can bounce creatures, either yours or your opponent's, so it still has that kind of Unsummon flexibility. But just the upside of also be able to return a spell to your opponent's hand, because we're all about just trying to be super aggressive and just kill our opponent as quickly as possible. And so if we can just get through for a bunch of damage and put our opponent into a spot where they have to Shatter the Sky or lose, and we hold up 2 mana to unsubstantiate that Shatter the Sky and return it to their hand, and then just untap and go from there, you're going to win a lot of games that way. So Unsubstantiate has been very, very impressive. And of course, old favorite here, Dreadhorde Arcanist. We have plenty of 1-drops with the Crash 2, Infuriate, and Shock that we can get back with Dreadhorde Arcanist. So 1/3 for trample. Whenever it attacks, you can cast an instant or sorcery card with mana cost less than or equal to its power from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. Then that spell is exiled. So this is a fantastic card when you have lots of ways to activate that graveyard, that attack trigger, get spells from your graveyard. There's some graveyard hate running around out there, because obviously you do need ways of dealing with that. But if their opponent does that against us, it's not the end of the world. It's still a fine creature here. A lot of times you're just going to do this on your turn anyway. So if your opponent wants to do something on their turn to get rid of your graveyard, it's not really that big a deal. It just happened a couple times. Another new card here is Unleash Fury. It's instant speed, double the power of target creature until end of turn. So this is kind of comparable to a card that we already had. I believe it's called Raking Claws. That has it's one that gives like a creature double strike and cycling. They're pretty similar effects overall, but I think Unleash Fury has just a little bit more upside in some ways. Obviously the other one, the double strike, could be better in certain situations, especially with a cycling as part of it as well. But they're both 2-mana instant speeds. So they're pretty similar spells, and since this is a new one, I'm just going to say this one is better because it's a new card. So there you have it. Sprite Dragon, of course, is an all-star in these style of lists. 1/1 flying haste. Every non-creature spell you cast, you get a +1/+1 counter on Sprite Dragon. If your opponent is not able to answer this, especially if you have multiples of these, this card just gets out of hand and is going to help you win games very, very quickly. Also running 3 copies here of Royal Scions. It's just fantastic card with helping you discard lands by draw discard +1, and you can also, most likely what we're going to be using this for is to give one of your creatures +2/+0 for strike and trample, because we just want to win the game as quickly as possible. But one of the problems with a deck like this is you tend to dump out your hand pretty quickly, and so if you start hitting a pocket of lands, you don't necessarily want to keep playing them. You can just hold it up to Royal Scions and then discard that land and then draw into some spell that you might need. And just being able to give your creature +2/+0 for strike trample is also pretty amazing as well. And another new card here we got is Stormwing Entity. This is one I was kind of looking at as like 3 and 4 copies. I finally settled on 2. It is on paper, it looks like it's a 5-mana 3/3 flying prowess. However, if you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it costs 2 and a blue less. So it costs 1 blue and 1 colorless to cast it if you haven't cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn. So technically it's a 2-mana spell, but then you still have to have cast a spell before that. So you still need 3 or 4 mana to cast this anyway. So it's not as amazing as it might seem. Obviously, in probably like an Arclight Phoenix build, which a lot of people were talking about with this kind of card, it's probably a little bit better in those decks. So maybe you're running 4 in that style of list, but I think 2 is the right number for here, what we're trying to do. Again, it does have flying, and it does have prowess, and when it enters, you scry 2. So these are all fantastic abilities. However, you still need plenty of mana to cast this. So even though it doesn't necessarily cost 5, you still need at least 3 or 4 mana to actually get some real benefit of having this card. So mana based here, we got 21 lands, so we got 6 islands, 1 Castle Embereth as just kind of a help us way to pump up the team, and 6 mountains, 4 steam vents, 4 Temple of Epiphany. And going over the sideboard here, I've also got some new toys here in Miscast. Just 1 mana instant speed to a counter target instant or sorcery spell unless the controller pays 3. So this is here to just protect us against board wipes and removal in general. Obviously it doesn't hit planeswalkers, it only hits instants and sorcery, so it's a little bit of a downside, but it's just the fact that it costs 1 mana instant speed, I think is worth taking a look at. Stern Dismissal, again, just for the tempo plays, returning a creature or enchantment an opponent controls to its owner's hand, so we can kind of keep our opponent's big creatures off the board, and any flyers, things like that, that are going to help us do damage. And the fact that it's 1 mana, it works really well with all these things like Dreadhorde Arcanist. And 3 copies here of the Aether Gust. Obviously just continues to be a fantastic sideboard option. 2 copies of Disdainful Stroke. This is here for the Planeswalkers. Obviously new Teferi, new Ugin in particular, you have to watch out for, and of course those are new Teferi's 4 mana, and Ugin of course is 8 mana, and there's also obviously it can help protect against board wipes and similar effects. Ultimatums, kind of depends on what your opponent is doing exactly, but anything that's trying to go big, cast expensive spells, Disdainful Stroke is probably worth taking a look at. And we really hate Teferi and things like that, so we're running 2 copies here of Fry, doing 5 damage to a creature or a planeswalker that's white or blue, so plenty of uses for that. Soul Sear, seems like it's a pretty sweet new card, doing 5 damage to a creature or a planeswalker, and that permanent loses indestructible until end of turn, so this seems like a really fantastic removal spell at 3 mana. And Life Gain definitely seems like it's going to be a thing, got lots and lots of new toys, so we do need at least 2 copies of Tibalt. You can definitely make a case for even like a 3rd copy. We'll see how prevalent Life Gain really is, but expect to see a lot of it, especially with a deck like this. Seems like the matchmaker loves to match up against decks like that. So maybe we should be running 1 in the main and then 2 more in the side. You know, maybe take out one of the Royal Scions. But seems like 2 is fine for now. But we'll see how it goes. Of course, shutting down your opponent's life and then making 1/1 devil tokens that when they die deals 1 damage to any target. Depending on the matchup, you might not even want to activate it. Just try to keep Tibalt nice and healthy at 5. And then also other ways to kind of deal with those decks with the Fry, Soul Sear, and Stern Dismissal, things like that. So yeah, lots of fun tools, very, very aggressive and efficient. Let's jump into some matches and see how we do. Up against Krieger. Go first, that's perfect. And do we shock here? I guess it's worth it. Pass. Let's leave open shock. If they do nothing, we probably just shock. And play the Arcanist. And then we follow it up with a Sprite Dragon. Okay, untap, perfect. So next turn we have some options. Advance Simic is this flash. There's a little bit of a pause there. Just hit our opponent's face again, just get a counter. Not playing any creatures. I think we just play this tap and just hold up for next turn. Okay, Gross Battle, so it looks like it's just a ramp deck. So we should have a pretty good matchup here. Bant. So I guess it's just a Ugin list. Pretty annoying, but it is what it is. Okay, so no double white for Shatter. There's the Fabled Passage, so they could have it next turn. I guess Riddleform Crash Through. Attack, play Crash Through again. Well, we'll decline. Has Summon Sickness, even though it's an enchantment. Okay, and our opponent says they can't deal with that. Alright. So what are these lists running exactly? I mean, Unsubstantiate kind of works against anything. But at the end of the day, we'd probably rather just counter it. Unleash Fury could kind of help us go with the aggro list, but it works better against other kind of creature-based matchups. So I think we'll just take out the Fury for the Disdainful Stroke. So that way if our opponent does have interaction, obviously Fury is just kind of a dead card. Tibalt is kind of interesting for Uro, but that's really the only use from it. It's just better for the strictly life gain type decks. Mono white, Orzhov. You know, we could Aether Gust their Uro, but it's pretty medium. Not really sure if these decks are actually running anything we want to miscast, but it might be worth taking a look at. We'll take out those two, I guess, leaving the shocks, just to help us push across damage. I don't think there's anything we need to Soul Sear or Fry, but we can adjust for game 3 if we need to. So, yeah. I think these ramp decks typically have issues with super aggro style decks. If they don't have 1-drops, they have lots of 2-drop, but those 2-drops get super powerful very quickly. We're on the draw here, but still one blue source is not going to cut it. It's a little bit better. I think it's still not great though. Maybe we can counter their growth spirals, I guess. That's pretty medium. The Royal Scions can help us find something, but they might be just a little bit too slow. But I don't think we can go down to 5. That seems pretty... That feels pretty bad. We just hope we draw a land here. We need lands and creatures, actually. So not the best keep. Okay, Temple is okay. We'll scry for anything that's man, lots of control. I'm not sure that's the answer here. We do have 2 counter spells already, so I think we just keep digging. There's a Jeskai Elder. I think we have to get that down. Okay, growth spiral, that's fine. Temple. I could go Fabled Passage or White Source untapped and Shatter for a 1/2 creature with Prowess. Doesn't seem like an amazing deal for them. I'm sure they want us to get at least a couple more creatures, 1 or 2 more creatures down before they want to Shatter. The question is, well, there's Teferi. So we'll missed our opportunity to stroke their Teferi. So now they can... our opponent has tons of options here, which is unfortunate. They can phase this out. I think we just get the tempo down first. Okay, there's a land. And I think we shock Teferi, see what they do. They can plus to draw and discard, keep it alive. So that 1. So we do have the counter spell here, depending on what they have. Obviously it doesn't do much against Uro. Could just have like a Cultivate or something. So now we can finish off Teferi. Oh no, they still have the activation. That's so stupid. We're just spinning our wheels trying to deal with this Teferi, and our opponent just can use the draw cards. Did they not +1 there? I might have forgotten to. Devout Decree. No. That's as good a time as any to fire that off, I think. Wow, they have double Devout Decree. Doesn't work against things like that. Alright, so we will discard. Oh, jeez. Mulligans, and now we're flooding out. That's unfortunate. And they have that Teferi we had to spin our wheels trying to deal with. Yeah, I don't think we're looking too good here. We have to really string some stuff together, so we're not technically dead, but we're not really alive either. I guess we'll give it one more draw. Yeah, that was a spell, but have flooded out. I mean, they're kind of stuck too, it seems like, but they're in such a better shape than we are. I mean, Riddleform is okay. It'll trigger our Elder, and they can block and lose their Crisis. Otherwise, we can. Jeez. Well, we don't need all these lands, so we'll keep them in hand for the discard. Okay, looks like they have a board wipe. They're going for the attack. Mulligan and just having no creatures to apply pressure was pretty unfortunate. We had some decent answers, but we had too many sideboard answers and not enough ways to apply pressure. I mean, maybe you go down to 5 in that spot, but that feels pretty bad. Especially what we're trying to do. We need creatures and we need spells to cast, and then we also flooded out there. That didn't really help too much. Also going on, so being on the draw. So just a lot of things working against us there. Oh man, if we had one of these was a island like that would be amazing. We could put the Unsubstantiate away for now. Alright, do we Riddleform here? We just get down the Arcanist and try to draw some cards the next turn if we continue missing land drops. Well, there's a land, so we can do that. We just need to draw some cards here, so we're going to fire that off, decline. Hit them for 1, draw a couple cards. Another blue source. It's not great, but it's not terrible since we do have some nice spells in hand. Okay, and down comes Teferi to ruin our day. Cool. And I'm not sure our opponent realizes unranked play, and they're running Bant to ramp, which is probably one of the better decks in Standard. 3 mana Teferi, 4 mana Teferi, etc. And thanks to Teferi, we can't play any counter spells. We'll decline that. I'm sure they're holding up Shatter here. Second Riddleform, sure. I mean, if they don't have a board wipe, we'll do that, but I'm sure they have Shatter. Teferi says you can't do anything. Shatter the Sky. Yep. No counterspell. Yeah, we'll just play it off the land. Alright, this is stupid, so we're gonna concede. I mean, you're playing a pretty obnoxious deck in unranked play. I mean, if it makes you feel better about yourself, like, there's not really too much that can be gleaned from playing this in unranked. Alright, up against Ornery Cat. One land. Jeez. I think we're just gonna keep our Sprite Dragons and Elder that can help us draw. Alright. Get the 1/2 down that can block. Mardu. Okay. Oh, there's a land. shock themselves in, so every little bit helps. Okay, it's a very interesting deck. Liliana's Triumph, 4-color cats. I feel like there's better cards you could be running, especially in your main deck. Eliminate, Heartless Act. I could see if you wanted to run that out of your sideboard. Yeah, I mean, our opponent has 3, 6, 8. So yeah, we're pretty dead here. Okay. So we saw white and green creatures. White and green. I mean, they're probably running some life gain, but maybe not. Maybe we want the Stern Dismissal just to bounce some of their creatures, slow them down a little bit. Maybe the Soul Sear for some removal. I'll try it like that. Yeah, modified, did not find any spells to profit, and yeah, our opponent had a pretty decent start. The Triumph was pretty questionable, but I mean, it did its job. So this isn't amazing, but we do have the Scions that can discard a Scions, potentially. And our opponent's also running 67 cards with 4 colors. That seems pretty consistent. I mean, it is Arena, so the Arena algorithm can tend to fix these draws sometimes. So I think we'll go with Elder. And then we can potentially get through for damage and discard something. So I should just go for the Scions. So this way we're going to get through for damage. And we'll say yeah. Okay, probably just looking for a 4th land would be pretty amazing. Either double Arcanist or Arcanist Riddleform. If we're stuck at 3 though, we do have Spell plus Dismissal. Pack Leader is a reasonable target. Doesn't really do too much with what they're doing exactly. I think we'll just go both of these. I don't think we need to discard anything. We could discard 2nd Arcanist. I mean, 1 is fine. It's not really doing much in this particular spot. Yeah, we'll discard the Arcanist, I think. If I have removal for it, that's gonna suck. But now we do have a couple of 1-drops we can play and get some ton of value with the Arcanist out. So we'll see what our opponent has here. Okay, they can. Let's see. That's if a cat deals damage. So we have to block the Garrison Cat if they swing all here, and they do not. So I think we just I think we just go for it here. Take action. Do we want to Infuriate? Okay, our opponent has seen enough. I think that felt pretty good, so we'll run it back. So we did mold a 6 that game, but we still got there. Some nice card selection. The Royal Scions, Jeskai Elder, pretty amazing card filtering. Love that. But yeah, these variations of cat and dog decks seem pretty strong. Man, this is so tempting. We have 2 draws to find a land. If we do get it, we have the Sprite Dragon, and we can do a bunch of damage from there. We've seen hardly any removal, just a 1 Triumph, but a weird. I mean, it's risky, man. We've had a mulligan every game. Let's keep it. Let's trust that the deck will help us out here. No help. Okay. So we had 2 draws, so that's fine. That's fine. We can crash through as well. Castle Embereth, thank you. We will absolutely take that. Thanks to Steam Vents, we can play it untapped. And now we are in business. They have their black mana for removal. Plummet. Now that's some premium removal there, people. Yep. Jeskai Elder. So we're still looking for lands. Okay, 4 lands, and our opponent does not have a creature down. There is a Kahira. Let's crash through, try to find some lands. There we go. Let's attack, see if they block. I'd rather just get the Stormwing down. Okay. If that's how you want to play it, I'll get through. Do we want to discard here? I think we'll actually decline. I think our hand seems pretty reasonable. I mean, we could have discarded maybe a Unsubstantiate, maybe? Pride Malkin. Sure, you're going to put a counter on your pack leader? Yeah, let's bounce that. We've done that on our turn. Yeah, I think we're still looking for lands here. No lands. The Stormwing would be our best play, so now they can't kill it, so yeah, do that. Still think we decline. Let's Entity and get a couple of scries here, looking for a land. Probably don't need 2 lands, so we'll take the untapped. Mountain feels pretty good. We're pretty balanced here between the blue and red now, so yeah. We've got the crash through for additional card draw, Infuriate to help us push through. Generous Stray draws him a card, but doesn't really do too much as a 1/2. And then the pack leader comes down. And the 2/1 doesn't really do much against our 3/3. So we're in a pretty reasonable spot. I mean, 20 life. Our opponents put 0 pressure on us, so yeah, we're looking good. Riddleform. Yeah, let's do that and hold up Infuriate. If they want to try to block our Elder again, we will happily Infuriate that. I think it's going to survive still, thanks to Prowess and everything. Decline. Yeah. Do we want to discard something? We have removal, so I think we just say your go. And we got the Prowess, and we can turn the Riddleform into a 3/3 next turn. So unless they have some removal here, hopefully they just play out a bunch of creatures. Okay, we got there. So yeah, pretty lackluster showing in game 1, but then games 2 and 3 were pretty sweet showing. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up there. It's definitely a case to be made to put in some more 1-drops, like probably like a Terramander would be a pretty reasonable inclusion, since we don't restart our curve until turn 2. But once you kind of get some of those 2-drops down, you can definitely do a ton of damage. That's kind of the one weakness, is you're kind of waiting until turn 2 a lot of times to get creatures down and do things. But you know, you have the shocks and things like that, and Corset give us a lot of interesting new efficient spells with the Miscast, Unsubstantiate, and things like that. So still trying to figure out the new meta and kind of figuring out where exactly the sideboard needs to be. Maybe it needs to be tuned to be more aggressive with those 1-drops, like I said, like Terramander. But yeah, there's definitely some prowess cards. Like there's a 3-mana flyer that I kind of looked at first, but that's pretty medium. So yeah, probably the Terramander at 1 is probably your best bet if you want to kind of really tweak this to make this hyper aggressive. But just the upside of that 3/3 flyer seems pretty good, but maybe it's not that great. So still trying to figure that out. I mean, obviously it put in some work right there, so I think it seems pretty solid as a 2 of at least. And then Royal Scions, you know, still get your prowess triggers and does everything you need it to do. Yeah, and then just lots of powerful existing spells with Sprite Dragon can do the job. Dreadhorde Arcanist is pretty medium, not as good as it has been in other lists for me, so that's kind of the one card I've been, that's fine, but I've also been a little bit disappointed by it in some ways. I mean, it can get you like lots of card draw, the shocks, and especially when you get into sideboard, things like Stern Dismissal, being able to bounce multiple creatures is pretty sweet. So definitely still a good card, but just not as powerful as in some previous lists that I've ran with it. So maybe, yeah, maybe there's still some refining that could be done, but as is, I think this is still a pretty reasonable deck. And you know, if I do refine it to a point where I think it's a lot different, then I might revisit it later on in the season. And obviously look for probably historic, could be pretty sweet there as well. Alright, so thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, make sure you jank with a purpose.